this meeting to order. If you would, please join with us, stand and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Streeter.
Everyone, please bow your head with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful, glorious morning. We appreciate the sunshine. We appreciate even the rain, even though we are blessed with way too much, Lord. Please watch over all of our farmers over the next several weeks as they try and get in the fields and plant. Please watch over our county as we stand here today before you and make decisions, and let those be all in your will. In your name, amen.
Amen. Please let the record show all three commissioners are present, along with Attorney Drew Porter, Auditor's Office, Julie and Lisa. I do have one item to add to the agenda under G, annual report to the Secretary of Education. Outside of that, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to add to the agenda?
No.
Okay, make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition.
Aye. A second.
Okay, there's a first and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries 3-0. Have you all had the opportunity to review the minutes from the April 15th meeting?
I have.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. We do have one appointment to the Health Department Board. Mary Yoakum, who's actually in attendance today, thank you, Mary Yoakum, for being here, has provided two names to fill for the Knox County Health Department Board vacancy. Who that was? Are there any recommendations? If not, I would make a motion that we approve Becky P., owner of Perfections, to fill the vacancy of the Knox County Health Department Board. Need a second?
I don't know either one of the candidates, so I'm not at liberty to make a judgment at this point.
Okay.
It was a nomination by the mayor, and she's, I know them both, but I'll second the motion.
Okay. First and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Becky P. will be the fill the vacancy of the Knox County Library. Is the YMCA here? Oh, back in the back. Hey, good morning. How are you? Good morning. YMCA Van Gogh 5311 grant.
Yes, I read it, but Lisa's gotta sign it. That's just the typical, you guys aren't gonna be
Pass through.
Yes, pass through.
pass through anymore, but this has to be signed every year. Somewhat, but
Right.
it's just, gotta sign, have, Lisa sign it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, just so everyone knows, so there was a change in the way the statute reads, and they being the YMCA, Van Gogh, had the opportunity to go on their own. They don't have to use the county as a pass-through anymore. However, as he mentioned, excuse me, we still have to authorize a resolution. Do we have a number?
It would be 2025
Okay, so I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-4, which is a resolution authorizing to fill the calendar year 2026 application for grant under the 5311, 5339 of the Federal Transportation Act as amended. Do I have a second?
A second.
There's a first and a second. Discussion? None hearing. Call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. None hearing. Motion carries 3-0.
And then we will
Okay.
email it back to all you guys.
Great, thank you.
Thank you guys. Anything else?
Matt Holden, Knox County Highway Department. We have a closeout of Bridge 382.
Yes, this is the closeout for the Bridge 382, which was the overpass, CSX overpass in Oaktown. This is just the final documentation to close that out with the state. That project is complete. All the vouchers have been submitted, all the reimbursements have been made too. So this is closing that project out to move on to other things.
Okay.
I do want to make comment that last week, I believe, myself, Engineer Holden, Councilman Rich Chatton all attended an award ceremony.
Bill did too.
Bill Horner, our ERC at the highway, to accept being a state finalist for this bridge for its engineering. It was the longest project known to man, I believe.
It felt like it.
And the railroad is at fault purely, so I want to throw them under that bus. But other than that, the teamwork between our previous engineer and you and United was flawless.
Yes.
And it was very nice to be recognized on a state stage for the work, so thank you.
Absolutely. I think there was maybe 8 state finalists that were up there. We didn't get the grand award, but it was a state finalist.
Well, we
which says a
really
lot about
can't
the project.
compete with I-69.
We can't compete with I-69, that's what won, so.
Yeah.
It was good with this project. You know, Benji started this project, he was the one really to give the credit for, that now he's retired on that award. But we all know, we've seen me in meetings during the process of the construction of that project, and it was quite a feat to get through. And the commissioners and council, saw through that the project did get finished. And it was good at the end of this thing to receive an award for it, because it was quite a tough project, so.
Thank you.
Okay, I will make a motion to close out Bridge 382. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any comment? None hearing. Call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Matt, while you're up there, can you talk about a little bit about, we've got some problems we're getting ready to face with taxes and stuff like that, and obviously we're getting taxed enough in Knox County from my recent assessment, at least mine, and I've heard from other people in the county, but we've got this wheel tax coming up that we're gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, so I'm on the legislative committee for IACS, and I've been through the day one of House Bill 1461 is the bill that has it in there, and it's a road funding bill. I'm not sure why they call it a road funding bill, because it was more of a road refunding bill. More funding was not provided in this bill. They are changing.
To Marion County it was.
Do what?
To Marion County it
Oh,
was.
to Marion County it was, yes. So, in the past year, there was $340 million awarded in community crossings grants, of which we capitalized on in Knox County tremendously. That is changing. They're going to first put $100 million into a fund that will be for the competitive grant of community crossings. Keep in mind, there was $340 million being awarded before. They're going to, off the top, give Indianapolis, Marion County $50 million, of which they were receiving $1.5 million before. There's $14.5 million going to the general fund out of community crossings. They're taking that away. And then there's $20 million going to the TRAX program for the next 5 years. They are completely redoing, like I said, there's $100 million in there that people are gonna be fighting for, but the only people that'll be fighting for that will be counties and municipalities greater than 5,000 that do not have a wheel tax. So if you do not have a wheel tax, you go to fight for that $100 million. You have to apply, it's scored, and it's a competitive grant process. If you do have a wheel tax, you automatically will receive a direct distribution, and it's based on lane miles. For a county like Knox, with the amount of lane miles we have, it would be a substantial amount of money. They're looking at the first year having a kind of influx of funding, because they used to do a January, July call. The July call is off the table now. They're gonna have a call this fall sometime. It's only gonna be 100 million. Everyone's gonna be eligible, so, you know, Knox County received 1.5 million. They're gonna be able to apply for that now. They really think it won't be 1.5 million, cause they know it's not gonna have the funding to get everybody. But in 2027, if you have a wheel tax, you do not apply for the community crossings grant, you receive a direct distribution. We're looking at numbers possibly being in the $2.25 million range. It's kinda hard to nail that down, because you don't know what communities that don't have a wheel tax will jump in and get a wheel tax. The $2.25 million that we're coming up with, that would be saying that everybody got a wheel tax and everybody was receiving that direct distribution. If that would happen, that would leave that $100 million out there for the communities less than 5,000. That's gonna be a big one. You know, we have several of them, you know, Oaktown, again, when I just worked with community crossings, they're not eligible for the direct distribution, but they will be eligible for that 100 million. It's real hard to, like I said, dial down a number, because I think there's 56 and 92 counties currently with wheel tax. If nobody else gets a wheel tax, the counties that do have it are gonna see a very large sum of money, because they're gonna take that money that's left and distribute it equally on lane miles. It is beneficial to counties, because we have so many miles of road. You know, even, you know, like the city of Evansville don't have near the miles of road we have. So that's gonna be a discussion have to be made in the community, in the county, on what they wanna do with that.
2027, correct?
Do what?
2027.
2027 is when the direct distribution, I think the end of 2026, I think when you have to have it, I can't remember the exact date on that. I think you have to have a wheel tax, there's a certain date you have to have it adopted to be eligible for that direct distribution.
Was the language of the threshold, how much you had to have?
No.
Max min, was that taken out?
Yes, that's taken
Okay.
out. Now it just have to have a wheel tax. It doesn't say it has to be the minimum or maximum. They were looking at one time, I think there was over like 40 amendments to this bill.
Yeah.
It was hard to track. At one time they had, if you have the minimum, then you could get X percentage of that money. They took that out completely, and now it's just a wheel tax has to be adopted to receive the direct distribution. So, there is also in there about Pacer rating. If your Pacer rating's above 6, you do not have to abide by the 50/50 restricted fund. It'll be a 40/60. Knox is getting close to that 6 to where that won't be as restricted on your funds. It'll be beneficial to definitely the reporting side of things with Vicky in the office. That'll be a big break for her. Community crossings is being restricted to construction, reconstruction, preservation, so that money just can't be taken out and you know, build a new highway department. There's restrictions on the community crossings money still, so it'll go directly towards road projects, which is what legislators want. I don't think there's really anything else to explain on that one. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. You know, NDOT's still trying to get through. I gave a presentation up at the LTAP conference last Thursday, and NDOT was there about community crossings, and it was basically, we don't know how this is, you know, they gave the presentation on Thursday, and the bill was signed by the governor on Friday, Thursday or Friday. So they haven't had time to figure out how they're gonna manage this yet, but that information will be coming out hopefully sooner than later.
My thoughts on it was just, I wanted to start introducing this to the citizens and stuff, so they can
Yes.
start kind of preparing their
Yes.
thoughts and stuff like that with it, because it is
It'll be a long discussion, and I'm glad to see that they're giving communities time to discuss this. You know, if you don't get it, you go after $100 million, which won't be enough to fund everybody, it don't look like, and you'll be in a very competitive process, and you may or may not get that $1 million. Or if you do have a wheel tax, then you automatically receive a direct distribution that could be in the, you know, $2 million range or more. I think the first year was like 2.25, then it dropped to like 1.75, and then it kind of maintained the 1.75 to 2 million. LTAP's working on those calculations better, but it's real hard to nail that down, because you can look at, if nobody gets a wheel tax adopted, you can look at that, and you can look at if everybody does it, but you don't know how that's gonna fall to see how many people are gonna be eligible for that funding. So, there'll be a lot of discussion on a lot of things to look at in the future here, so.
So, just for public knowledge, Matt has tendered his resignation with us. We didn't accept it. We said no, but Matt had an
I accepted it.
opportunity. Matt has an opportunity to go back home.
And I've had the opportunity since I left. In Gibson County where I live, they have, I'm gonna say, hit rock bottom with the highway department. Basically, they did not receive the $1.5 million community crossings grant, because of a problem with the submittal of it. And then with this House bill that was just finally signed by the governor last week, the hopes that they could reapply in July and get that money back disappeared. So, where I live, where my family lives, they lost a substantial amount of funding that I really feel would not have happened if I was there. There's a lot of things coming up with the House bill and everything that I feel I am needed there where I live to help navigate. And I've told the commissioners, I've told council, I've told the employees that I'm not leaving them hanging. There's things to finish here. There's things to do here. There's things to go forward here. The commissioners, council, the employees, the residents have treated me very well up here. Things have went very well, and they were continuing to go well. So it's a hard decision on me. It's not what I would call in my personal benefit to go down to this problem, but Oaktown, I help them. Their community crossings grant's going really well. I have talked to them and told them that I am there for them to finish that out. The good thing on our community crossings grant, it's almost finished. I think we broke a record on that one. I don't know anybody else that's got a grant in March and almost done by the first of May. So that's going really well here too. So
You'll be sorely missed. That's for sure. Anyways, back to business.
I concur.
Okay,
Thank you, Matt.
opening and awards for the Knox County TIF 2025 Oaktown Road paving project.
Yeah, so this project is to finish Oaktown Road from Myers Road to State Road 159. The TIF board RDC board has been generous in listening to our needs. Last year we did the start of Camp Arthur Road, from 550 past the school to Kaiser Road. And this year we finished it all the way to 41. So we came back and said, hey, we started a project with you guys, we finished it. We have another project, Oaktown Road, that was started 7 or 8 years ago up by Risley Road. And it's made it down there's a bridge, a newer bridge that was stopped at, and we're going from that bridge to Myers with our community crossings grant. There was not enough funding to finish it the rest of the way out. So I asked for funding from the RDC to finish that project. It was approved. We advertised for bids. We only have received one bid. That's from E&B Paving. E&B is doing all the other community crossings grants. They're actually going to be, they haven't started Oaktown Road because they're hopeful to get this and just can make it a one continuous project. It doesn't surprise me. Usually we get 2 bids. Usually we get Milestone, we get E&B. I can see where Milestone kind of said, E&B is already there. Let's put our efforts into a project we feel we can better get. So I'm gonna open the bid from E&B Paving. Their total bid is $198,667.60. 198,667.60. That is actually
Well below budget.
$27,000 lower than my engineer's estimate was, which that's another one of those projects that continuing it on, it made our project very good on pricing. They're already gonna be there. They've already got the mobilization included. So I will look just to make sure that the few things that are required in the bid are here. It's 496, so it's good. Give me 1 second, then I will. Conclusion. Insurance, E-Verify, security bond. All the bid documents are in their bid package, so I would recommend awarding this to E&B Paving.
I make a motion to accept the bid from E&B for Oaktown Road.
I will second that. Any conversation? None? Call for the question. All in favor?
Is anyone from E&B here?
I don't believe so. I know I talked to Tommy Maggart this morning,
Okay,
and he was dropping the bid off, but could not make the bid.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
I don't think Mike's here. I don't believe anybody from EB's here now.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
I have a quick question. I was looking at my paperwork here and found a letter I'd received. The last meeting under appointments, the ones I'd requested had been removed. Is there a reason for that?
I'm sorry.
The appointments that I'd requested to be on the agenda have been removed.
That would've been my error, since it was up for appeal. I just
Okay,
put it down there.
okay. All right.
Letter C, Employee Health Insurance Committee. Last meeting, we talked a little bit about establishing a committee. So I would like to make a motion to establish a 10-person committee to serve on the Health Insurance Committee. And basically what this is a committee looking at our insurance, health insurance, employee health insurance from top down all the way around. So I would make that motion,
I second.
okay? There's a first and a second. Any conversation? None hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No, and I explained my comment. I'm not for sure the intent of this whole policy or this committee. May I ask, whom is guiding these meetings? Whom is creating the agendas? Whom decided 10 persons? How were they decided? I mean, this is a very large endeavor with people
Sure.
missing, in my opinion.
Sure. So who is leading the two people that are appointed, Drew and Tim? Commissioner Ellerman here will be the lead people, and then do we need to go through the list of the individuals?
You would need to vote for each
Okay.
individual.
Each individual one?
You need to establish which ones are commissioners' appointments, and then out of the 10, if you're putting council members, the council would
Okay.
vote their own members.
All right, so we'll do that in just a second. Go ahead.
No, I just, it's, how often is the committee meeting, or
That'll
are
be
you?
up to them.
Okay, are they going to review actual data? I mean, this is,
Yes,
okay, well,
yes.
I was just told, so I want to be clear. I've been intimately involved with our health insurance since I took office, so
Sure.
it's pretty robust.
Okay, so on the committee, I would make the one by one.
Yes.
Okay. I would make a motion, Cheyenne Grogan from the courts system be a representative of the commissioners. Do I have a second?
Second.
Conversation?
How is this person selected?
Each individual, I reached out to the courts, or each area, and asked the independent area who they would like to have serve on that committee. Okay, there's a first and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion carries 2-1. Shane McGregor from the Highway Department. Make a motion to appoint Shane McGregor. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Well, comment.
Yes.
Has this been discussed at the highway, Matt? Okay, all right, thank you.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries 3-0. From the Knox County Sheriff's Department, 2 appointments, Michael Kohlhaus and Cameron Carr, so I make a motion to approve both of those. Sheriff, you were in the building, he was in the building. Oh, I saw him. Those were his nominations, so I make a motion to approve both Cameron Carr and Michael Kohlhaus to the committee.
I second.
First and a second, is there conversation?
I would want to, I would want to speak with the sheriff, so that's all. He's not here.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion carries 2-1. James Reese is here. James, you yourself would like to serve on the committee. I appreciate that. So I make a recommendation or make a motion to approve James Reese to this committee. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any conversation? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Beth Warland from the courthouse. This was actually suggested by Drew, if I remember correctly. And Beth has agreed to serve on this committee. She served on the committee the last time we had one. So I would make a recommendation that Beth Warland serve on the committee. Do I have a second?
I second.
Is there conversation?
Yeah, I would want to speak with her as well.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion carries 2-1. Make a motion to approve Tim Ellerman, Knox County Commissioner, to this board. Do I have a second?
Second.
First and a second. Is there any conversation? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. I'd also like to appoint Drew Porter as Knox County Attorney to this committee. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor, or is there a conversation? None hearing.
I'm not sure why he would be an appointment. I think he would be there in a role of advisement. I mean, I don't know, whatever.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
None hearing opposed, motion carries 3-0. I'd also like to have 2 appointments from the Knox County Council, and they will appoint theirs at their next meeting.
The email I saw
Yep.
stated you'd already
Well, they will
Appointed.
need to make their own appointments at their meeting.
understood. So,
So I make a motion to have 2 appointments from the county council. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, conversation? None hearing, motion, call for the question. All in favor say aye. Aye.
aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, so to answer my question, we have several departments not included that have reached out and wanted to be included. Have you answered them?
I have
Or
not had any email from any other department wanting to be on the committee.
Okay. I do know off the top of my head that Michelle Smith did send the commissioners an email. But again, how were these selected?
I reached out to various areas after consulting with Drew on what areas would be great. And so we reached out to the area in question and asked them to submit names, or a name, or
Okay.
names in some cases.
I respectfully request the next time a committee is established with policy and standards and appointments that I be notified and included.
Duly noted. Okay. Sheriff's Department, Suck and Shuck. Is Sheriff here? Well, he was here. Okay, this is a law enforcement agreement for the Sheriff's Department to provide security for the Suck and Shuck.
Careful.
I'm not really for sure what that is. But I would make a motion to approve the Sheriff's Department providing security for this event. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. First and a second, is there any conversation? Okay, none hearing, call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. E, repeal of local ordinances. Ordinance, so this would be 2025, correct?
It'd be 2025-4, it's an ordinance, not a resolution.
I'm sorry, ordinance 4 and, okay. I make a motion to hear on first reading the repeal of ordinance 2025-4, which would repeal 11-2018. Do I have a second?
I second.
First and a second, do I have comment?
We make motion on first reading?
I can read.
No, but we make motion on first
Yeah,
reading.
that's what he
Yep.
did.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
2-1, motion carries. Drew, if you would, please
State of Indiana, before the Knox County Board of Commissioners, ordinance number 2025-4, an ordinance of the Knox County Board of Commissioners repealing ordinance number 11-2018. Whereas the Knox County Board of Commissioners approved ordinance number 11-2018 on August 7th, 2018. Whereas ordinance number 11-2018 was enacted pursuant to the Board of Commissioners' home rule powers to recognize the detrimental effect that invasive plant species have on Knox County agriculture, forests, natural habitats, and to animal and human health in general. Whereas ordinance number 11-2018 prohibited the sale of invasive species as defined on the Indiana Invasive Species Council list. The listed invasive species were prohibited from Knox County, Indiana by nurseries, retailers, grocery stores, chain stores, or any other vendor. Whereas ordinance number 11-2018 established an enforcement authority and procedure for handling violations of the ordinance. Whereas the commissioners have powers to repeal a local ordinance by a simple majority pursuant to its home rule powers, as well as powers granted under Indiana Code Section 3624. Whereas on April 18th, 2019, the state of Indiana enacted the terrestrial plant rule 32 IAC 18325, designated a list of invasive species and precluding the sale, gift, barter, exchange, distribution, transport, or introduction of the invasive plants in the state of Indiana. The Indiana Natural Resource Commission is responsible for enforcing the terrestrial plant rule. Whereas the Knox County Board of Commissioners have determined that it is in the best interest of Knox County and the taxpayers of Knox County that the Knox County Commissioners repeal ordinance number 11-2018 in light of the Indiana terrestrial plant rule. Now therefore be it ordained by the Knox County Board of Commissioners the following: that ordinance number 11-2018 is hereby repealed. Section 2, that any portion of any ordinance in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 3, that this ordinance does not repeal, preempt, void, or preclude any state or federal laws related to the regulation. This ordinance shall be in effect and after its passage according to law.
Thank you, Drew. So there's been some conversation, some misnomers as to what this is and what this is not. So I just want to start by saying there is a list from the state of Indiana of 44 plants that the state has deemed invasive. This does not change that. This does not do anything with the state. We can't change the law. The law is the law. What has happened, an unintended consequence, I believe, my opinion, of the ordinance put our small businesses at a competitive financial disadvantage. 91 other counties, it is perfectly legal, and the state of Indiana is perfectly legal to have an additional 20 plants that we have deemed to be invasive. It is perfectly legal for me to walk across the line to Daviess County, Gibson County, Pickett County, and buy any of these plants and plant them here. The small businesses that we are talking about are the ones that they're the ones that are supporting your kids' Little League teams. They're the ones that are out there living on their bottom line. The small businesses are paying 3% of the assessed value of their taxes. So I'm of the opinion that, and I'm not gonna agree or disagree that these 20 need to be there. What I'm saying is that our fight should be with Indianapolis and this board, that created the original. That's where the fight should be, so that all 92 counties are of the same. And that's why I feel this way. There are, like I said, 20 additional plants that we have, the only county in the state of Indiana that have deemed these to be illegal. So that is what it is. It has nothing to do with the state law. It has nothing to change of the state law. It stays the same. Obviously, we can't change that. That is what it is.
Well, it's good to know that, because there's been no discussion as to why this came about. I read the word taxpayers, I hear your angle. The state law, we knew that when we enacted it back in 2018 unanimously with great support on both sides of the aisle, including our full council. So I think the whole point of this is being missed. You're removing the board, which I believe is the intent of repealing this. The board, just like our unsafe building board that was created at the same time, was used as a way to educate and inform and help individuals that were unaware of what invasive species were. It's worked flawlessly. There's been no issue. I've heard no issue from any business owners, the few that we do have. So I think this is purely detrimental to our county as a whole. No idea why we would look back to 2018 to undo a law that's never been before us of issue until I put appointments on the agenda that have now been removed with no comment other than, we'll see you at the meeting, it's on the agenda. This is nonsense.
Okay.
And what I'm aware of, it's an ordinance, not law.
An ordinance is a law. In Knox County, we are able to create law in this county. And this, I mean, we spent, I mean, your father and I spent months and months on this with many advisors across the board to figure out how to protect. Primarily at the time, we had some agricultural grave concerns around many of our protected areas. So it was, again, nothing's changed. This is where I just don't understand why now.
Anything
I have
further?
nothing further.
Okay. I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion carries 2-1. Next ordinance, this would be 5, correct?
So let's be clear, this is first reading. We
This
still
is
have.
first reading. We still have second and third reading at our next meeting, which is May 20th. That is correct. Make a motion to hear 2025-5, repealing of ordinance 6-1986. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, first and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Okay. Drew, if you would, please.
State of Indiana, before the Knox County Board of Commissioners, ordinance number 2025-5, an ordinance of the Knox County Board of Commissioners repealing ordinance number 6-1986. Whereas the Knox County Board of Commissioners approved ordinance number 6-1986 on July 7th, 1986. Whereas ordinance number 6-1986 was enacted pursuant to Indiana Code Section 36.7 10.1-3 to establish a county weed control board to contain defined noxious weeds within Knox County. Whereas ordinance number 6-1986 permitted the county weed control board to issue notices to property owners within Knox County for removal of noxious weeds on his or her property. Whereas ordinance number 6-1986 established penalties to enforce its provisions. Whereas the commissioners have powers to repeal a local ordinance by simple majority pursuant to its home rule powers, as well as all powers granted under Indiana Code Section 3624. Whereas the Knox County Board of Commissioners have determined that it's in the best interest of Knox County and the taxpayers of Knox County that the Knox County Commissioners repeal ordinance number 6, 1986. Now therefore be it ordained by the County Board of Commissioners of Knox County, Indiana, the following: that ordinance number 6, 1986 is hereby repealed, that any portion of any prior ordinances in conflict with the provisions of this ordinances are hereby repealed, that this ordinance does not repeal, preempt, void, or preclude any state or federal laws related to the regulation of noxious weeds, and this ordinance shall be in effect and after its passage according to law.
Okay, thank you. So, this one, honestly, I didn't even know we had a weed control board, because we haven't had it on our agenda for 4 years to place, members on, and, ends up, they haven't had a meeting in 10 years by their own admission. So I'm not sure, if there's a point in this anymore. Indiana does have a noxious weed control, IC 15167-2, which has, I believe, 13, 14, 13 different noxious weeds on that. One other point I'd like to point out is that we, as a county, have indeed spent resources in fighting noxious weeds throughout the county. We will continue to do so. Of these 13, well as others, I think that's a good steward of our money, and it's a good steward of the land. Again, this does not change the Indiana law whatsoever. It just changes what our home rule ordinance is. Conversation, Ms. Streeter?
Again, repealing a law out of nowhere from 1986 is nonsense. Really, the reason it has came up, and you mentioned it, in 4 years, we've spent, I think we're in our 3rd year through our economic development income tax budget, working with our partners at Soil and Water to make sure that we get hot spots around this county of noxious weeds and invasive species. We are now to that next step of post our hot spots, of which is what was presented to you the end of last year, of putting this weed board together to then decide of how to move forward in this county with other areas that need address. And the weed board, made up of 5 members: commissioner, township trustee, soil and water, ag community representative, as well as the highway department and the cooperative Purdue Extension, to then work on advancing that program in this county. So that is why this came up, and it's been a work in progress. I want to commend everyone involved, and I see no reason as to why we should stop now through the abolishment of a law from 1986 because the board appointments came up.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
I have nothing further to add than what the burden is on the
Okay.
taxpayers in Knox County.
Okay, all in favor of repealing ordinance 2025-5, repealing of ordinance 1996-6, all signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No, and I reserve my right to make comment. The financial impact outside of paying taxes of any kind to the agricultural community on the impact of these invasive species is much greater than what we are paying for this program. I could probably line up some of those people here to tell you. Just please understand that.
Okay.
It's very costly.
Okay, motion carries 2-1. Claims. I make a motion to pay claims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, comment? None hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Payroll. Make a motion to pay payroll. Do I have a second?
Second.
First and a second. Is there comment? None hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, none heard. Motion carries 3-0. We added G, the annual report to the Secretary of Education. This is an annual report. I had it here in my hand, and I don't know what I did with it. This is an thank you, annual report to the Secretary of Education. So I would make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, is comment? None hearing. Call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. We have no old business. Justice Campus, I believe we have a bill here somewhere in that stack. One last bill for our Justice Campus of the jail and the Community Corrections Building. This is the last bill. Now we just pay for it. So I'd make a motion to approve. How much was that for?
It's multiples.
Multiple. Oh, it wasn't just one. All right, make a motion to approve the bill for the Justice Campus. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in comment? None hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. You should have all received email correspondence from Mike McKiska on the code compliance officer. I don't have anything further to discuss on that, if you guys know. Ready 2.0, I did have the opportunity to discuss Ready 2.0 a little bit earlier this morning, and there's no, from KCIDC, there's no additional comment at this point in time from them. There's waiting for their meeting with the state. Of course, that's been changed a little bit, and I believe he said that was gonna be in June. So we're waiting for that. The EOC Center, so there was a little bit of a hiccup. We've known about this hiccup for a while. What's happened is where, you have to envision with me here, the building, which was the old Poor Farm, sits here. Behind the Poor Farm, KCARC has several apartments. All of the utilities that run to the apartment run right through where the building, where the proposed EOC building is being built. So we've known for a while that KCARC was going to have to reroute those utilities. We have been given a couple of options as to what we can do. One option was obviously have that continue on with the rerouting of the project or rerouting of the utility lines, or the second option is to basically change the facing of the building, so instead of facing the road, it would face the other way and just turn the building. I personally am of the opinion that we go ahead and clean up the area. We reroute those lines as we originally had planned, or KCARC reroute those lines as planned. I know that might delay the project just a little bit while they reroute those lines, because obviously they can't do it themselves. That would be the actual power companies and different folks to have to come out and do that. But I'm of the opinion that we move forward with doing that. I don't know if anyone else had any other feelings on that.
I definitely believe that they need to reroute their utilities around our property. And the more it's delayed and the more it's delayed, I mean, we always know that that affects costs. So yet again, we have an issue with that. But have you been given any idea as to how quickly KCRC intends to move their utilities?
The last time I spoke with them, and this was before their meeting with the architects, They were looking at early part of the summer. But I wanted to meet with us first to discuss this prior to me reaching back out to them to see what their timeline is. But I believe it's gonna be early part of the summer. Obviously, the sooner the better. So I can do that, this evening. But that's my opinion. That sounds like consensus that we reroute those utilities.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yes, I do. I would also, since cost was brought up, I don't know how much, we've definitely got to probably rework these plans, because I think we was misled down this road. The estimate for this building per square foot has been, they've let us know, what, 2 or 3 months ago? $450 a square foot, which makes it a $4.2 million lease building. That is out, I don't really, like, it's hard for me to justify spending that much money, and we're definitely gonna try to rework the plans to get it down closer to 2 million, which the council said we have money for. But there's a lot of work that has to be done on this building, because I can't, it's gonna be hard for me to justify spending 4.2 million at least on this building that we don't have.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So we did hear back from, the architects. Looks as though they're still online for May 16th to be able to get that out to bid. Maybe a month for bid. Let's just say a good day is a month for bid. So we should know mid-June, I would guess, as to what that total project will cost. At that point in time, then we can decide our next steps. Yeah, I would guess mid-June. Again, I'm not into the bid process, so I don't know how long they normally take. I would assume 30 days, but I'm not for sure. So I would say that if everything goes to plan, they should have those out to bid shortly after May 16th, and we will know something probably within 30 days thereafter, and we'll take those under review at that point in time and decide how we move forward. You know, if there's gonna need to be cuts or whatever. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
all I had.
Okay, and I have nothing further on judicial center. Anyone else? Okay. Public comment, 2020-2, established a resolution for public comment. Does anyone have anything? If you would, please, yeah, it doesn't matter whoever goes first. If you would, please go ahead and state your name, but then also, if you would, Lisa has a sign-in sheet. Did we die?
Come on.
Lisa has a sign-in sheet for us. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
My name is David Shelton. I am the Knox County Clerk, as well as the Knox County Republican Party Chairman. Public service in the form of elected office requires dedication of time and effort to fill the trust bestowed upon them by the voters. That trust has been betrayed. Since being named the President of Knox County Commissioners, Commissioner Brink has now had 2 department heads leave Knox County. We lost the leadership of Rod McMullen as our E911 Director, and now we've lost Matt Holden as the Superintendent of our Knox County Highway Department. Both of those leaders were recognized statewide for their innovations and their dedication to their fields. Commissioner Brink has improperly instituted a committee to review county health employee insurance. While this committee was publicly discussed today, it was originally created behind closed doors with no transparency or public discussion. This seems to be a trend in 2025. Extremely short public meetings with no discussion before a vote is taken. Now, action has been taken to eliminate both the invasive plant ordinance as well as the weed control board. As a leader in agriculture in a state, this seems like a very reckless move for Knox County. Our farmers need those protections to produce top quality food free from contaminants caused by those invasive species. The repeal of those protections sends a message that agriculture is unimportant and will discourage the fast-growing ag technology that is currently being developed here in Knox County. Speaking of boards and appointments, many county boards require political parity by code and statute. At no time has Commissioner Brink contacted me to identify the voting history of any appointed board member. This was a regular step taken by past commissioner leadership. Some appointments may need to be rescinded, and new appointments made to comply with all requirements. Since being named Knox County Commissioner President, Commissioner Brink has failed to uphold the duties of the required of the office. As a state employee, Commissioner Brink simply does not have the flexibility to adequately attend to county business as needed. Commissioner Brink appointed himself to the KC IED Board, owing to now cancel his attendance at an upcoming event. Knox County has gone from being recognized as a leader in the state to a laughingstock. Being the Commissioner President is not a participation trophy. It requires hard work, time, and dedication. Knox County can ill afford this kind of continued leadership. I therefore call upon Commissioner Brink to step down as Knox County Commissioner President so that someone with the time and needed dedication may lead Knox County back from the brink of disaster.
Thank you. If you would just sign your name.
Good morning, I'm Ray Chatton, Decker. I'm here representing the natural resources of Knox County because they don't have a voice. I want to begin by thanking the commissioners for the support they've given Knox County SWCD in our battle against invasive species. It's been a big help. But I'm here this morning because Mr. Brink has gone on record stating that he doesn't think these two ordinances are being rescinded are necessary. And I want to argue that rescinding them will be a huge step backwards. I'll speak first to the invasive species ordinance. The most important aspect of it is that it prohibits the sale of two species that are not covered by the Indiana terrestrial plant rule, that being Callery pear and burning bush. The reason they aren't on the list is that nurserymen are making a lot of money selling them. I just want to give you an idea of how terrible Callery pear is. In the 1940s, what was at that time Crane Naval Depot was buying up land in preparation for World War II, and they acquired a piece of property that had a plant nursery on it. Over the years, the Callery pear escaped, and as of 2020, which is the latest data I could get, over $5 million of taxpayer money has been spent primarily trying to control Callery pear at Crane, and they still aren't close to having it under control. I classify that as a natural disaster. It's what the next generation has to look forward to, and it's why I refer to invasive species as a malignancy metastasizing on a landscape scale. Most of the large retailers of landscaping plants in Knox County have no control of the plants that get shipped to them. Most of them come from out of state. Time and again, we've found invasive plants on their shelves, and we found very little pushback when we asked them to remove those plants from their inventory. The reason for this is that it's the law in Knox County, and there are consequences if they don't want to cooperate. If this ordinance is rescinded, there will be no authority from the county to get these plants removed. And my question is, why would anyone want to allow that to happen? Next, I want to address the county weed board ordinance. Weed boards were established as a last refuge for landowners who are suffering economic damage because of what is growing uncontrolled on their neighbor's property. And I would remind everyone that part of the definition of invasive species is that it does economic and environmental damage. It's the job of the weed board, upon receiving a complaint, to to investigate that complaint and mitigate the situation. The key word here is mitigate, not litigate. There are harsh penalties for noncompliance in Indiana code, but in my time on the Knox County Weed Board, we never had to go that far. We would always bend over backwards to help landowners at least show a good faith effort in addressing their problems. The bottom line is that a law without teeth in it is worthless, and a weed board has the ability to exercise common sense. The reality is that there are several resources now available to help landowners with problems through the Knox County SWCD and the Knox County SISMA. I'm asking you to give the weed board the chance to act in good faith. And if a landowner comes to this board and says, I'm being abused, you have the authority to pull the plug on it. We're not arguing that. Addressing invasive species is an enormous task. I'm asking you to be on the right side of history on this by keeping these ordinances in place. They came into being as the result of much thought and hard work, and more importantly, a need. That need has never been greater. There are very qualified people waiting to serve on the respective boards authorized by these ordinances. I'm asking you to please give them the opportunity to work for the betterment of Knox County. The old saying goes, when your house is on fire, don't throw gas on it. By eliminating these two ordinances, you're throwing gas on that fire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ray McCormick, a local landowner and farmer. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to the commissioners. I've served at local, state, and federal levels on different conservation organizations, different conservation causes, been to Washington, D.C. many times, giving up my time for conservation, trying to take care of the natural resources of this country. Indiana is known as a leader in conservation. States all over the country say, how do you get this done? How are you doing so much conservation? Cover crops, no-till, all these clean water things that we're doing, we're recognized as a leader, and I'm telling you, Knox County is recognized as the best county in the state doing these things. You drive across the county, you see cover crops all over the place. You go up around Purdue, you aren't going to see any. We have all these programs. We've worked it so hard to become leaders in this country, and Knox County and its soil and water conservation, its university, its agriculture leaders are great conservationists that have done great things. Invasive species is an example of an ounce of provision is worth millions of dollars to cure these problems. Right now, we have tens of thousands of acres of landowners here. They're not small business, they're huge businesses in this county, and we are threatened constantly by all these invasives. Let me give you an example. If we could have stopped the stink bugs from coming into this country, Ray McCormick wouldn't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars spraying soybeans for stink bugs. Think of how much money everybody in this room is spending or is being spent in this county. Johnson grass, we have invasive species attacking us from all corners. You drive down the road, we've got invasive species in our ditches, in our waterways, in our woods, in our fields, in our yards. It's everywhere. So we need to be proactive. We need to be leaders. We don't want to go backwards and say, because we're in a leadership position where all these biological cancers are coming from us, from places like Lowe's. The local people there aren't protesting. They don't know what they're getting, but they're passing out these cancers into our communities. It cost us, big landowners, big money to fight these constant threats coming from different directions. Your dad had to have the state come in and stop kudzu in this county. If it would have got away, it would be growing all over our yards and our fence rows and so forth. So please consider the economic consequences of stopping these ones. The state doesn't have the power to do it. You have the power in this county to be leaders and say, we gotta stop these things, they're horrendous, and we're gonna take a leadership position and control more of them than the state can get done. So thanks for your time, and I hope you'll reconsider the repeal of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, right, yeah, please, if you would.
Denise Eagle, Vincennes. I sent each of you a note about how I feel about repealing this ordinance, and I'm still not quite sure why it's being brought up now when we had this discussion several years ago, and it passed unanimously, and nothing has changed since then, except the leadership of our commission. So I hope that you take time before the next meeting to talk with experts in the field. I don't know that I've seen any of you at I'm past president of SISMA, at our annual meetings showing you how many volunteer hours and money that has been put into this endeavor. So please, when you get your little invite to our annual meetings, come by and get information that you don't have now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. Troy Hinkle, farmer, landowner, part-time employee for the Knox County Soil and Water Conservation District. And I have two or three things I want to talk about. First one is, I understand there may have been some questions about the use or how the funds are being used for the line item in your budget that is for invasive control on county property. And
There was?
pardon?
Did you all, somebody say something? No? Okay, go ahead.
Line item 000-33-1310, and I think 3 years ago was the first time that any money was put in that. The commissioners requested $20,000 from the council. Council appropriated it, and in that first year, we signed an interlocal agreement between the Knox County Soil and Water Conservation Districts and the commissioners to begin to control invasive plants on county properties, county right-of-way, county parks, whatnot, and also specifically for the purchase of some equipment to be able to do that. So the first year we spent a little less than $20,000 purchasing some equipment. Got ready to do that. Then in 2024, last year, we started actually doing the control work. And last year we used I think $1,700 in change out of that line. And that was mainly for a little bit of equipment, for some training, and for supplies to begin controlling cattle repair and a few other invasives along county right-of-ways. I think we gave you a report on that at the end of the year, and so you were able to see the work that was able to be accomplished. So that money is just going directly for county property. It's not being used on private property at all. The Soil and Water District has been on staff, and he's been doing most of the legwork. We get money from the council for interns that are also helping with that legwork. So none of that money has gone to the Invasive Species Board for their use in any way. So again, maybe you didn't have questions about that, but I kind of heard through the grapevine there was some question about how that money was being spent. This year our hope, and we'll come to you with a plan, but this year our hope is to use some of that money specifically for county parks properties. We will continue the spraying program on the right-of-ways, but we'd also like to use some of that money to begin doing some significant work on parks properties. So hopefully in another month or two we'll come with you with a plan for that, so that with your approval we can spend that money, and then we'll be able to submit a claim for that. But and I'd be happy to entertain any questions you have on that. If not, I'd like to move on to a couple other things. I think Ray McCormick kind of hit on this, hit the nail on the head. This is really about leadership. And you made the comment that, 91 other counties in the state are content to let Indianapolis make these decisions for them. And I don't know when it was that our county officials were content just to punt to Indianapolis and say, well, whatever those guys up there say, we'll just go with that. You know, you were elected by the people of Knox County to provide leadership for Knox County. And so you have the opportunity to do this. And I can't tell you when, 5 years ago when you passed the ordinance on, for the invasive species board, and we added additional species to that were not on the state's list. And Ray Chatton touched on why that is, that those specific species are not on the state's list, but we added them to our list because the impact those species are having are dramatic. It's very dramatic. And so we took leadership. You took leadership, and you passed that ordinance. You added those species to that, and I can't tell you what a boost that was to people in the other 91 counties of the state because they had no mechanism to do that. Knox County was the only county that had the ability to go out and control these additional invasive species. 91 other counties do not have that. You provided leadership at that time and gave us the ability to begin to address those things. The concern about how much tax revenue is being lost, I don't know that there's ever been a study on that. I'm sure we could probably come up with an estimate. And I don't care if that estimate's $5,000 or $10,000. If you say we're losing $5,000 in tax revenue by enforcing this ordinance, I'm sure that we could pass the hat in this room and come up with that money to make up the difference in tax revenue. It's that important to these folks out here because they see the devastation that's being done on their land. The amount of money that Knox County is gonna lose in tax revenue for timber sales over the next 100 years is several orders of magnitude what we're losing in tax revenue right now by not selling Cal Repair and Vinca and whatever else is on that list that the other 91 counties can sell. If somebody's going to Washington to buy something and we're losing $5 in tax revenue, we're gonna lose millions of dollars in tax revenue over our children's lifetimes, our grandchildren's lifetimes, as our timber stems are decimated by these species. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I'd encourage you to drive around the state. Drive to Warwick County in April and see the pear trees lining the interstate. And it's easy to think, well, those are kind of pretty, we like those, but then you look off the county or the state's right of way and you see them infesting the woods. Those things will destroy a stand of timber, right? You harvest your timber and it's got Cal Repair in it and bush honeysuckle, you no longer have a stand of timber. So the next time you come to harvest, you don't have anything. So think of the loss of revenue that's gonna occur in Knox County through your grandchildren's lifetimes. And it's thousands of times what it is that we're losing in a minuscule tax revenue from not selling these species. No comparison. So it was amazing that you were able to provide that leadership 5 years ago, and people all over the state looked to Knox County, as Ray said, as the leaders, like nobody else is doing this. Knox County did that, and that gave other groups the hope to go to their commissioners and ask for similar ordinances. And I can't tell you if any other are passed at the moment, but that was a breath of hope for other people around the state who recognize this problem, right, for what it is. And again, it was leadership. You displayed some great leadership, and you didn't just defer to the people in Indianapolis and the decisions that they make that may or may not be affected by somebody that's given them a campaign contribution because they're willing to vote on the continued sale of a couple plant species, right? You did the right thing. You did the right thing, and that was very encouraging. And also the state, as I understand, the state doesn't have any enforcement mechanism for their noxious weed laws. They say these are noxious weeds, but there's nobody coming from Indianapolis to drive around Knox County and see if we have infestations of those and see that they're controlled. They gave that job to us to do. That's why they created the weed board law, so that we could enact a weed board and we could take in effect in our county the list that they made, and we can add to it if we want to. If we see that we have damage being done by species that are not on the state ordinance, we can add to it because we have the responsibility to do that, because maybe that's happening here that's not happening in another county. So again, that's leadership. The state doesn't send anybody down here to do that for us. We have to do that for ourselves. And in 1986, the commissioners recognized that and said, yeah, we'll enact a weed ordinance and we'll start doing the job that we need to do because no one else is gonna come and do it for us. And so they did that. And now we're choosing to go back on that leadership and again, just defer to somebody in Annapolis and hope that, I don't know what we're hoping for, because nobody's gonna come and do that for us. They've given us the right and the responsibility to do that for ourselves, and that's leadership. So, again, it just comes down to leadership, and we have the opportunity here to not just continue to provide the leadership we've had for the last 40 years, from 1986 on the weed board, and for the last 5 years on our invasive species board, but to add to that and continue to show leadership to the other 91 counties in the state that need to do what we're doing. It's not that we need to go do what they're doing, all right? They need to do what we're doing, and we can show them the way, that not only how to do that with an ordinance, but how it's actually happening on the ground, right? That's the kind of leadership that they're looking for, and you have the opportunity to provide that leadership, and I would just encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Reitmeyer, 1407 Vigo, and also a county council member. These guys have pretty well said it very clear. And I would ask you to keep these ordinances, if nothing else, just to be a good neighbor to the farmers that are fighting the same weeds all the time. And also, a few years ago, SISMA had a falling out with the county parks, and it got kind of nasty. But they've all made up, and the SISMA is really making a big imprint on the county park system. So if we all work together, I think it really helps a lot. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Sean McDowell, and I am here on behalf of everybody else, and I'm a past educator from in the county. I retired recently from North Knox, and my take on things is I think we have an opportunity to educate, not argue and cut things off. And it looks to me like we have a group of very passionate people here that are educated and willing to spend time. And I see our young people in the county as really not knowing what's going on, being involved in the school systems. And it's an opportunity for us to really band together and become a team instead of a divided group, and work to better educate our young people and our community on these issues that we have, because if we don't, I think we're just sort of following history and paths with bad things that have happened over time, and then we spend a tremendous amount of time trying to, revert back to that period. You can look at the state of Florida with their issues with the snakes that have got in with animals. You can look at health issues that we've had with chemicals that have been used, and now they're bad and we don't use them anymore. I mean, we can keep following in that footstep, or we can look at this in a different light. And it is not easy to step up and do the right thing and be a leader. I know that for a fact. And say, no, this isn't right. Let's look at trying to do the right thing. And so I would ask, like everybody here, that we take a step and think about this, take a breath, and see if we can work together and look at it more from at the path of educating our future county inhabitants and members, our young people, that when we become grandparents and we're not around any longer, those children and who become adults and leaders in the county, they are benefits of that, and they are sharing that good news, and like we've said, become leaders statewide instead of just following the other 91 counties and doing what they do. So that's my, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
to apologize if I say something that's already been spoken. I had to remove myself from the room earlier because I was feeling very passionate at the moment. Just say that we should do something just to make up for lost tax revenues because this is happening elsewhere. So that argument didn't make it when Indiana was deciding whether or not we should sell marijuana. Look at all the tax revenue Indiana has given up because you can drive across state lines and buy pot. So just loss of tax revenue, I don't think is a good enough reason to not do the right thing.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? If not, our next meeting is on May 20th here in this building at 6 p.m. If there's nothing else, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.